Okay, first things first, before we install our extended battery, we're going to want to back up our Aria device. So we're going to need an Aria device, a computer, and a USB cable. So in my case, I'm using a pretty old computer just to demonstrate that this will work with just about any computer you got. But I'm using a USB-C cable, which will attach to the Aria device, to a USB-A cable that'll go to my computer. So let's go ahead and connect that up. So we'll connect the USB-C into the Aria device, and then I will connect the USB-A into my computer. Likely, if you're using a more modern computer, you're going to have a USB-C to USB-C cable that you'll want to use. Quick note, this cable needs to be a data cable, not a power cable. So typically the data cables are a little thicker. The one that came with your Aria device should be the one you use. Of course, I know not everybody can remember what USB cable came with which one, but just a fair warning, if it doesn't work, it may be because you're using a power only cable and not a data cable. So something to be aware of. Okay, so I'll open up my computer and then I will hold down the play button. So I'm holding down the play button here, and I will turn on my Aria device. I'm continuing to hold down the play button until this starts blinking here and you get the dashes. The device is now this is like a progress meter here, so it's got to go all the way over here before it mounts to the computer. So that can take a minute. All right, it's just about done. And there we go. So now we see the S-1 right here mounted on our computer. And we have two folders here. We have backup and restore. So if we go into the backup, we see all these files that end in a PRM extension. These are the banks that are on your Aria device. So in this case, an S1 has 4 banks with 16 patterns each. So 64 patterns in here. And you can see, you may not be able to see, but it says 64 items here at the bottom. So I'm gonna go back a folder. I can take this backup, drag it onto my desktop, and voila. We have a backed up copy of our S1. So now we can move on to installing the battery. Okay, let's see how we can upgrade our Aria device with our extended battery kit that we have here. So what we're gonna need is our extended battery kit. We're gonna need our Aria device, a screwdriver. I'm using this particular screwdriver. It's a Phillips head. I think the screws are actually M42s, but if you don't have a metric screwdriver, you get an Imperial one that's pretty close, it'll work. And we're going to need a towel to set our device on a flat surface. We also need a flat surface like a table here. And then we can use our towel to protect our interface. All right, let's open up our kit. So in your kit, you're going to have the new extended battery, a battery cage, and your QR code that you got to reach this video, using that to reach this particular video. All right, so first things first is we'll take our screwdriver and we're going to take out these 6 screws. Just a word of warning. You're going to want to use a manual screwdriver. You can use drills and things like and electric screwdrivers to get these out, but you run the risk of stripping the screws. You just have a lot less of a chance of stripping the screws if you just stick to a manual. And we're not, we don't have like a 2-ton car rolling down the road on one of these, so I don't think we need to over torque these out. We just need to hold a couple pieces of plastic together, which is well within our capabilities as humans to tighten a screw that tight to do so. Before you start this procedure, you'll want to back up your device. That was shown earlier in this video. And now that we have our 6 screws off, we can open up our device. Be careful not to pull it too tightly. So in this particular case, I opened it up, sort of upside down. Let's take our screws and just put them over here for a second. And here we go. This is it. All right. So our target for this is this battery pack right here. We're going to replace that battery pack. So also make sure your device is off before you start doing this. So first we're going to do is we're going to gently pull this J wire out. And you can see the black wire was on top. So when we get ready to put that back in, we will follow that. Here, I'm going to come in a little bit so we can get a little bit of view of what we're working with here. It's a very small wire. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to detach our battery by removing these 2 screws. All right, set those aside because you're going to need them in a minute. All right. There we go, and voila, there's your factory battery. Set that off to the side. And we're going to take our battery, our extended battery here, in our static-free bag, and open and gently pull that out because you don't want to mess the wire, you don't want to detach the wires or anything like that. So there's our wires. All right, and we're going to take our cage, flips on top. I like to put the battery, the end where the J wire attaches to coming out of the battery like so. In fact, I find it best to flip it over so that this end is closer to our connection point right there, which means you might have to twist these wires because we're going to go in like that. So first things first, we'll connect our battery. And so our black wire is on top. Go. It can be a little tricky to get in there because it's so small. What we want to make sure we don't do is we don't want to squinch the wires, so we don't want to pinch them. So we want to be careful about these holes. And then our battery installs like so, like that. You may have to loop the wires up like that. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cage one more time. And I'm just going to fit my screws through here. Sorry, fit my screws through the holes. Make sure we've got enough room to put the screws through the holes. There may be some plastic from the 3D printing. This one's got a little plastic on it. Oops. There we go. Hopefully that'll push some of those plastic stragglers out of the way. There we go. All right, so now that I got my screws in my cage, I can put it back here. Carefully line up those holes. Line up the screws with the holes. There we go. All right, we've got our cage installed now. All right, and we'll just close up our device. There we go. I'm going to put back the 6 screws. And there we go. Now we're going to flip it over. Just turn it on to test. Oh, well, first we'll have to charge it. So we'll charge it up and then run a quick test on it to make sure everything works. All right, next thing to do is to charge it up. So we're charging, and let's see it turn on. All right, looking pretty good. We'll then just see the play. It looks like it's playing, and that's a wrap. We've just extended our battery life. All right, save your battery in case you need to reinstall it. You can always go back to it. And hey, good luck out there. Thanks for watching.